Hello, I'm Robert Janna, and this is the Walking Podcast. In today's story, I want to share something that is quite old for me, yet very recent because I still haven't really properly tackled the issue, and it spans on a whole field of consumption, especially digital news consumption. And so the problem for me is that, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone here, that given this huge amount of information that we could possibly consume on the internet, it's quite easy to overconsume, and it's quite easy to consume without a proper awareness or dedication. So just to give you examples, I just end up reading dozens of articles with the feeling that I'm actually reading none of them in a proper way, like not taking the required amount of time that would acknowledge that someone, a person, an author, invested a lot of time creating this article, and I'm just scrolling through it or flipping pages. And this is to me very unsatisfactory, and I would like to change it, but it's difficult. And so as a first step, I think what is needed is to just reduce the number of items that you're consuming day by day. So instead of reading hundreds of articles, listening to 10 podcasts, and watching 15 videos on YouTube, maybe just think how much content would be more appropriate to listen, to watch, to read. So for me, this meant that I was like radically decreasing the amount of information that can or could possibly get to me. That got like fed into my email inbox in forms of newsletters and mailing list updates, and I try to be more selective to significantly reduce the amount of items that I came across. But in a second step, and that is the more difficult one for me, and I guess for most of us, is this question: when you're consuming an information, or an article, a podcast, a video, are you then a passive consumer or an active consumer? And what's the difference for me here? For me, the difference is that as a passive consumer, even though I might, dedicate my attention and take the proper amount of time for example, reading an article, it still makes me a passive consumer if I don't do anything with that information. If I don't derive any conclusions or any actions for me based on what I've just read. So, for example, there's a podcast that I really like, and it would make me a passive consumer if I just listen to the podcast, would think that maybe, that's quite a nice podcast, without any action following that conclusion. And in this particular example of a podcast called Hello Internet, I actually transformed from being a passive consumer of this podcast into an active one by becoming a monthly supporter. So now every month I just donate a certain amount to this podcast to show my value. of this podcast. And this is something that I would call active consumerism. It's like, taking actions in your own life based on what you consumed. And for articles on the web, this can be the similar thing. If I read something and it really strikes me, it gives me that feeling that this has impacted me, then how can I best show my gratitude? Can I, for example, leave a donation to the author of the article, or can I somehow share it with someone, with people who might find this article useful too, or who then can or could do something with that information, with that article, maybe because they're experts, or maybe because they possess a certain skill that that might be useful in connection to that article. So it doesn't have to be money. Active consumerism for me means that I use some sort of gratitude, or that I use some sort of way to show my gratitude for an information that took someone time to create. Yeah, so my name is Robert Ojamna. I'm signing off for this story of the Walking Podcast on ways we consume passively and ways we could consume actively. I look forward to all your feedback, all your criticism, all your personal stories in connection to how you consume digital information media. And I wish you a beautiful rest of the day. Take your time for this week's information that you consume. And I wish you a wonderful goodbye.